Hello and thanks for joining us for this PBS SoCal special report, Sustaining California. I'm David Nazar. Technology, it's all around us, no avoiding it. Androids, iPhones, tablets. It's an online world connecting the globe. Almost anything we need, just an icon or app away. However, is the future of this tech world sustainable? The technology boom is here. Over the past few decades, tech has provided millions of jobs around the globe and throughout the United States. Nowhere is this more evident than ground zero for the tech industry. Silicon Valley in California's Bay Area and Silicon Beach in the Golden State's tech hub of Los Angeles and Santa Monica. There are more tech companies per capita in these two places than anywhere else in the world. Tech has provided us with a wave of the future. Whether it's accessing information at a moment's notice, accessing transportation, or accessing any type of retail, technology has changed the way we live. With our cell phones, tablets, and other mobile devices, the world is our village. And yet, with all of the amazing technology that is constantly being reinvented at a frenzied pace, there are tech sustainability concerns because many climate scientists throughout the U.S. believe there is a price to pay for this innovation. Robert Lempert agrees technology is the wave of the future, and the tech industry has been a vital economic boon to the nation. Lempert says without tech, we couldn't survive. However, he is one of the scientists who believes the current state of the tech revolution is not sustainable. Lempert is a principal researcher at the nonprofit, nonpartisan RAND Corporation. He specializes in the study of climate change and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. We met Lempert out here at Santa Monica's Silicon Beach. There are hundreds of tech companies in and around this Los Angeles County tech hub.
Tech uses a tremendous amount of power, a tremendous amount of electricity. And to deal with climate change, we need to reduce the emissions that come from energy use. Tech uses about 3% of the world's electricity, more than the aviation industry. The current rate of growth in electricity demand by the tech industry, both in the devices people use, but also these big server farms, run the cloud, aren't consistent with the sustainability climate change targets that California and the world have agreed to.
Lempert says there are about 10 billion devices used worldwide to connect to the internet or apps. All culprits, he says, in the war against greenhouse gas emissions.
It's estimated that tech could be 20% of electric demand by 2025. That's gigantic. By 2040, tech could generate more greenhouse gas emissions than currently is generated by the entire United States. The tsunami of the data that we are using is powered by fossil fuels, which is not sustainable.
To get a bird's eye view of this tsunami of data and all the tech industry has to offer, we decided to visit one of America's largest tech ecosystems. This is Tech Fair LA 2018. Many believe this is the future. About 15,000 job seekers have converged on downtown Los Angeles for one of the largest tech job fairs in the United States. 250 of the world's leading technology companies are here. It's an attempt to provide techies the opportunity to meet and mingle directly with companies like SpaceX, YouTube, Google, ZipRecruiter, Ticketmaster, and Indeed. Chris Hyams is president of Indeed.com, the largest job website in the world. Indeed has about 250 million job seekers around the globe every single month.
Technology has clearly changed everything. Not only is every major industry being disrupted by technology, the number one advertising company in the world, the number one music retailer in the world, the number one retailer in the world, they're all technology companies. But in fact, every company now is becoming a software company.
Hyams explains that's why companies like Delta, Disney, and Warner Brothers are taking part in Tech Fair LA. Now everyone wants to be a part of the tech revolution.
Technology is the core of essentially what almost every big business does. Technological skills are going to be essential for employment in the 21st century and beyond. If you look right now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that there'll be 1.4 million new computer science related jobs created over the next decade.
I'm hoping to get a junior developer job, maybe just any JavaScript developer role. That'd be ideal.
Has this tech fair been helpful?
I think it has been because a lot of companies probably get a lot of applicants, but when you get some FaceTime with people, you get a chance to really talk with someone and show them what you're worth. For one, I like solving problems, and you can't really get into tech without enjoying that to some capacity, partly because it changes so rapidly.
Bastian Lehman has been dealing with these changes at a frenzied pace. Lehman is co-founder and CEO of the ridiculously popular Postmates.
Postmates is an app that sits on your Android or iPhone that allows you to purchase things in your city and have them delivered in a few minutes. For most people, that's food. For others, that's groceries. But we also do retail deliveries, anything you can think of. For the better or for worse, we're using our phones for a lot of more things. And that technology allows us to make purchases very intuitively and make them in a very short period of time. There's not much planning involved. And I think you have, on the other hand, a millennial customer base, at least for Postmates. The world is changing. Less planning, less commitment towards a world that allows you to have things ad hoc. So Postmates, you press a button, you have something delivered in a couple of minutes, it's superpowers.
Los Angeles is in the midst of a tech explosion. Los Angeles County actually has more tech jobs than any county in America now. And here in Los Angeles, it's a more diverse tech landscape, not only in terms of the people, but also the industries that use technology, from aerospace to biotech, energy tech, digital tech, entertainment tech, video gaming tech. But we also are more diverse just given the population that we have. And this fair is about making sure those two things connect. That the amazing universities that we have, the incredible students, the workforce, connect with great companies that are here that are changing the landscape of LA, but also investing in the future of prosperity and jobs for Los Angeles for the next generation.
We're the most socially connected generation of all generations, so I feel like tech is taking over the world, and whether we like it or not. So if you can be a part of that and be able to work in it Monday through Friday, that would be awesome, because we stay on our phones every day anyway.
I just wanted to be around all these innovators. I just felt like it'll be a lot of synergy, and I wanted to network. It's the wave of the future, so we just have to be a part of it and embrace it somehow.
Robert Lempert says he wants to be a part of this future, and everyone must adapt to this new world. And while Lempert has his sustainability concerns, he believes it could be a win-win for the tech industry and for preserving our environment for future generations.
There is some good news. First off, the tech industry uses electricity, which in principle can be the cleanest fuel. There's a huge effort underway in the US, California, and globally to decarbonize, they call it, the electric industry, to sustainable sources like wind, solar, and other potential sources. That will greatly increase the sustainability of tech.
Technology can be scary, and we know a lot of us are thinking, well, could technology disrupt my job? As there's new AI, does that mean that I may not have a job as a factory worker or as a driver? But the fact of the matter is, if you look at historically over time, the invention of technology always creates more jobs. It always creates more opportunities, flexibility, open up more doors. We have more people working across the world, making a living wage than we ever have. It doesn't mean we don't have a very, very long way to go. But technology is in most cases the driver of new opportunities and new jobs. And that's what a day like today is helping to bring to the forefront.
In years past, the rap on tech has been that it was an industry about exclusion, not inclusion. An industry catering to quote-unquote white privileged males. Well, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti and his local tech partners are on a personal campaign to change that. The city currently has several outreach programs throughout Los Angeles in places like South LA and East LA, where young people of all colors, backgrounds, and walks of life are now being trained to become future coders, creators, and innovators. In December of last year, several massive wildfires attacked the Southland. The combination of these fires burned hundreds of square miles and destroyed or damaged thousands of homes. The worst of those fires was the Thomas Fire. Then, this past January, heavy rains caused severe mudslides in Santa Barbara County. All the scorched earth from the Thomas Fire could not sustain the massive onslaught. The Montecito mudslide claimed the lives of 21 people. Now, scientists and builders are trying to find out what the damage from mudslides and debris flows does to the environment. What are the preventive measures? Why do they happen? In the last half-century throughout California, real estate developers and cities have been banding together to build tens of thousands of homes in hillside communities that either have that pristine ocean view or are nestled against the backdrop of amazing mountain ranges. Nowhere is that more evident than in Southern California. These types of houses, high atop the hills, can be seen everywhere, from the Anaheim Hills and Laguna Beach in Orange County, to Malibu and the Hollywood Hills in Los Angeles County, to Montecito and Ojai in Santa Barbara County. However, at what cost are these homes being built?
Let me preface this entire thing by saying, as a builder, government regulation is not something I'm looking forward to in general. But as you can see, a hillside development is innately less sustainable than any other development.
Farzin Agapor is a real estate developer and builder of multi-million-dollar estates, some of them in hillside neighborhoods throughout Southern California. For the past 10 years, he has built homes and other structures everywhere from Malibu and downtown Los Angeles to Palm Springs and San Bernardino County. While Agapor is in the business of building to make money, and lots of it, he is trying to get the word out to his fellow industry peers, voicing his concerns about what he calls serious sustainability issues. We met Agapor out here at this hillside Malibu community, an affluent SoCal area notorious for wildfires, landslides, and mudslides.
Cities across the country have a number of codes and building codes related to sustainability. However, planning departments don't. Planning departments don't take sustainability into consideration when they set out their guidelines. They basically give you the size of the lot, the setback, the floor area calculation, which determines how much you can build on a specific piece of land. None of these regulations take safety into measure, or sustainability for that matter. At this point in time, when hillside properties have become the hottest commodity, just at the time we're realizing they're the least sustainable commodity, we need to make sure we avoid a situation like Montecito.
What Agapor is referring to is the Montecito mudslide this past January that claimed the lives of 21 people. Here's what happened.
Large fires are burning north and west of Los Angeles. The threat level index is red in Ventura and Los Angeles counties. It was raised to purple in some places. That is a level that has never been used before.
Winds subsided Wednesday but have picked up again, fanning flames across Southern California.
No sooner were Californians out of harm's way from the devastating blaze, Mother Nature dealt a different kind of wrath. In January, heavy, intense rains caused unprecedented mudslides and debris flows in the Montecito neighborhood of Santa Barbara County because of all the scorched earth from the Thomas Fire. In addition to the 21 people who died in this disaster, more than 100 homes were destroyed and over 300 damaged. And part of one of California's busiest highways, Highway 101, was shut down for nearly 2 weeks. Kate Scher is a geologist with the United States Geological Survey. She was part of the response team which aided in the Montecito rescue effort and also helped with damage surveillance and assessment. Today, we met Scher out here at a debris basin in the Sylmar community of Los Angeles County, located at the San Gabriel Mountains. In December, parts of Sylmar were also scorched from what was known as the Creek Fire.
The material that you can see on the landscape is what becomes a debris flow. A common word that's used to describe that is actually a mud flow. We like to use the term debris flow because it includes not just mud from the soil, but also the big rocks, the trees, big chunks of the bedrock or the hill slope that can get entrained in these flows as they go downhill. So the reason we like to say debris flow is it's a huge variety of material that comes down, not just mud. Debris flows can move as fast as 30 to 40 miles an hour. If you think of yourself driving in a car at that speed, you certainly wouldn't want to hit anybody, right? When you envision that you could take all the material on this landslide in the landscape and have it move that quickly in a slurry that has a concentration of like cement, for example, and it's moving that fast, it can take you out very quickly.
Scher explains these charred hills here in Sylmar are exactly like the hillsides in Montecito after the Thomas Fire. The inferno burned all the living and dead vegetation that had sheltered the soil. The land quickly eroded because there was no protective shield or barrier from the debris flow.
You can see where there used to be vegetation before the fire, and that vegetation, all of the roots that go in, the smaller plants that have burned up, all of those roots go in and basically lock the soil into the bedrock. Once you have this burn, those roots that act like the staples that hold the soil into the ground are all gone. Descriptions you hear from people that it sounds like a freight train coming at you. So you can envision you have boulders out in the Montecito area. We were measuring boulders that were 2 meters high. That's taller than me.
I have not seen a debris flow this bad within the last 20 years.
Janice Hernandez is with the California Geological Survey. Hernandez was also part of the team out at Montecito, helping emergency responders and also documenting the path of the debris flow and mudslide.
They come barreling down the canyons at a rapid pace, and as this material works its way down the slopes, it's picking up stuff and it's just making the mass even greater. If at the bottom of the canyon we have a debris basin down there, it's supposed to catch this heavy material and allow the lighter material, the water, to flow out of it. But in the case after a fire, there was just too much material to come down and the basins filled up and they overtopped, and all that material was spilling out into the neighborhoods uncontrollably. Enough material came out of the canyons to fill perhaps 300 football fields.
Agapor says he does not want a repeat of Montecito, and while he knows mudslides and debris flows are going to happen, he believes his industry could at the very least be more judicious about where they build, and also prepare folks who purchase that perfect hillside property.
A homeowner can essentially do 3 things to safeguard their home purchase and possibly safeguard their lives. First thing they can do is hire a soils engineer to give them a soils report. Second thing they should do is get a licensed surveyor to give them a survey of the land they're purchasing. The third thing you should do is hire a structural engineer to take a look at the house you're buying. Now, all these 3 things are going to cost you thousands of dollars, but in my estimation, it's worth safeguarding your home and possibly safeguarding your life.
Is there any way that this can be prevented, or is Mother Nature just going to do what Mother Nature does?
Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature does.
Areas that have had landslides before are particularly at risk. The fact that they've had a landslide before makes them more at risk to have a landslide again. So if it wasn't sustainable in the past, it's definitely not going to be sustainable in the future.
When the rain comes down, no vegetation, loose soils, is just a recipe for disaster. You basically get buried by the debris.
After the Montecito debris flow and mudslide, there was a lot of anger and confusion from some residents claiming much of the death and destruction could have been avoided had the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department issued mandatory evacuations instead of voluntary evacuations. So now the department has eliminated the word voluntary in these types of disasters. If you've driven around downtown Los Angeles recently or live in the area, you've probably noticed the skyline looks drastically different than it did, say, 5 or 10 years ago. That's because real estate developers, builders, engineers, scientists, they're all working with the city of LA to construct a massive build-out. However, are the new towers you see everywhere able to sustain a massive Southern California earthquake? If you're afraid of heights, viewer discretion is advised. If not, a view of the downtown Los Angeles skyline from 70 stories high is something to see. Los Angeles skyscrapers were sort of a late arrival to urban development compared to cities like New York, Chicago, Miami, or Houston. However, today, LA has more towers being built than any other city in the country.
There's well over 100 projects either under construction or about to be constructed in downtown Los Angeles. There's probably about 40 cranes in the sky right now as we speak, constructing buildings.
Hal Bastian has been working with LA developers on downtown real estate projects for 25 years. He is part of the Downtown Los Angeles Revitalization Project.
There's a reason that downtown Los Angeles wasn't a high-rise city like New York City. One was land economics. We had nothing but land. We were on a little island called Manhattan. Another was cultural. People came from the east. They didn't want to have that kind of density. And the third reason that we didn't have really tall buildings until recently in the last 30 years is because we have big earthquakes every once in a while.
The last major earthquake in Los Angeles County was the 6.7 Northridge quake in 1994. 57 people died, 9,000 were injured, and thousands of buildings were either damaged or destroyed at a total cost of over $40 billion. Northridge is part of the San Fernando Valley, about 25 miles from downtown LA.
In Southern California, we have about half of the nation's total earthquake risk. So a lot of that, when we talk about it, is the complex system of faults, not just the San Andreas fault, which is the most active fault in California, but also many hundreds of other faults, some of which are underneath LA and surrounding the downtown area. So we have a complex mixture of hazard here in LA.
Hudnut explains that LA is overdue for a temblor, one that could be deadly and could certainly shut down transportation, communication, and utilities for days or weeks.
The San Andreas is about 30 miles away, but we have other faults close in. So a smaller magnitude earthquake on one of these faults close to the downtown area could also create a problem.
Standing here amongst the clouds on one of Los Angeles's tallest skyscrapers and then peering over the edge is probably going to make anyone very nervous. However, it's interesting to note that most of the structural engineers and real estate developers we spoke with actually claim this is one of the safest places to be in the event a major earthquake were to hit LA.
So when the big earthquake comes, and it will, I would like to be in one of these high-rise buildings because they're engineered for it. Much safer than being on the street where things will be falling down and around you. So the big leading question is, are these buildings safe that we're building? And the answer is, life is risky, but these buildings are as safe as they can be for living in an earthquake region.
To really learn how these skyscrapers are earthquake safe when they're sitting so high above ground, you first have to travel far below ground so you could see the technology of LA's seismic resiliency. Follow me. This dark dungeon is actually a basement in one of the buildings in Los Angeles. It's an example of the inner workings from beneath the earth that you'd find in some of the giant towers.
This is a glimpse of the future. We're beneath a building that is specially designed to withstand a major earthquake. This is the underground of the Emergency Management Operations Center for the city of LA. USGS seismologists say this structure is considered the safest building in all of Los Angeles in the event of a quake. It uses cutting-edge technology seen in many of Japan's tallest towers, particularly Tokyo, which is earthquake-prone like LA. Currently, just a few buildings in Los Angeles house this innovative science.
What you have here, you're seeing an example of some of the systems that can be used in these buildings. This is a friction pendulum based isolation system. What this does is you see it's tied to the building, but also these pillars go 30 to 40 feet to the bedrock. So when the ground shaking starts, when the earthquake develops, these are going to cause some movement. What it does is it absorbs that movement and it allows this building to maintain its integrity. So basically there's bearings and pendulums inside of this that when you have that ground shaking, it actually absorbs that. Remember, we do have different faults in Los Angeles, so you could get a lateral type movement, which this isolator can handle, but we also have vertical movements. And we do have different isolators that you can notice here, which would handle that type of movement as well. Picture a vehicle. You're driving on a rough road, right? You really don't feel that too much because the shock absorbers, and picture a skyscraper, the same thing.
Ibsen says this is kind of like a floating building suspended in air. Nothing makes contact with the ground.
You're looking at the plumbing is suspended, the heating and air system is suspended, the stairwell is suspended, the electrical cabling is suspended. You're going to see that in these large skyscrapers. Everything will be suspended and there's no attachment to the ground at all.
I'm just amazed by what the structural engineers are able to do, learning from the global experience of earthquakes all over the world and making buildings better and better, advancing the code, learning from the experience of one earthquake after another, what kinds of things can go wrong, what have gone wrong in earthquakes all around the world, and building that into improved codes to improve our seismic safety.
Can buildings be too tall in earthquake-prone Los Angeles?
You know, I don't think we're ever going to build a building that is quote-unquote too tall for the city of Los Angeles or downtown Los Angeles. What we're working to do is to get people out of their cars, living in density, living in a city, and living in a safe high-rise building.
Are they safe?
Yes. The bottom line is, in every area of the country, there are hazards, whether it's a hurricane in Florida or Texas, whether it's tornadoes in Kansas, or if there are floods along the Mississippi, and there's earthquakes here. I will tell you that it's a risk living anywhere, and I'll take my risk of a big earthquake every 20, 25 years over any of those other hazards.
And they just keep getting taller and taller. Well, that's it for this edition of Sustaining California. Please email us your questions or comments to sustaining@pbssocal.org. That's sustaining@pbssocal.org. Also, tweet me your questions or comments at DavidNazarNews, DavidNazarNews. I'll be sure to get back with you. Thank you so much for joining us here at PBS SoCal.